We work with upwards of 400,000 influencers every month. Influencers in this country are amazing purveyors of trends.
Yes.
First version of what we thought should be Myntra Forward. I was in the room when they said, this looks like a millennial trying to be Gen Z.
How do you do, fellow kids?
This is when Gen Z puts this sound called FA.
In a week, Vishal was in our office. The script hai, sun lo. One of them being this tension between millennials and Gen Z with Vishy Gukesh. They're shooting on Jan 4th. We were live with the ad on Jan 15th.
Wow.
And in 1 week, it did 30 million organic views.
It's Skibidi.
Scooby-Doo?
Sure.
There are some trends which will happen if a Rocky and a Rani comes and there is a certain sari. Durandar comes and people start looking for Patani suits.
शाहरुख खान साहब को आप क्या पिच मारते हो कि वो सेट पे आके बोलते हैं यार प्याज काटनी है.
He is a better marketeer than all of us.
मिंत्रा के सीएमओ सुंदर हमारे साथ हैं. वेलकम टू मैशेबल मॉर्निंग्स. क्या हाल है
Thank
आपके?
you. All well, all well. Looking forward to this chat and drive.
वाह क्या बात है. देखिए we didn't coordinate this green thing. But do you look forward to the Pantone color of the year as an organization because you're marketing to the audiences of today?
No, those are super important. Yeah, when the cloud white came out last year, when the chocolate mousse, whatever
Hanji.
is the right word, came out, those are very important because these trends get taken up very quickly nowadays.
Yeah.
Earlier you had lead times. Ki aaya hai, we will build, etc. Now in the day and age we are, everyone sees something new trending, they want it immediately. So yeah, we have to react to things quickly.
That's true. Marketing today is like you have to be very reactive but also strategic, है ना?
100%. Given how much of marketing happens on social media or otherwise,
Yeah.
it's become super complex. A lot of people optimize much more for headlines nowadays. But to your point, yes, you got to have a good balance.
So guys, we're going to talk about the Myntra studio that they have, a lot of their ads, the one with Shah Rukh, Kiara and Farah being my favorite from the recent times. So please stick around till the end and subscribe if you haven't yet. But before we get to like the Myntra time of life, Sundar, for you, you started in Mumbai with Colgate.
Yes.
So,
Long back. And I actually didn't start in Mumbai. I started in Chhattisgarh, but yes.
Oh, so Colgate उस जमाने में ऑफिस की वाइब क्या होती थी?
Colgate vibe has always been this, it's a multinational company, structured, process driven, everything has a manual and a process, it has global guidelines. That's what worked for the brand and continues to work for the brand, and it always had a great culture of people working together. So that's what I remember of Colgate.
तो हम तो उस मैक्स फ्रेश वाले ज़माने के लोग हैं. देखो तो आप आई एम श्योर छत्तीसगढ़ में मैक्स फ्रेश नहीं बेच रहे थे, आप मार्केट रिसर्च पे निकले होंगे.
नहीं, मैं सेल्स कर रहा था तब.
सेल्स कर रहे थे आप?
हाँ, every day 40 stores a day asking कुछ Colgate में लगेगा आज is where how you start. So most people when they start FMCG, the first stint is in different organizations, the sales officer stint, whatever, जो भी different terminologies they use, but that's the stint. So for first 6 months, that's what I was doing store to store, taking orders along with my distributor, right from Raipur to Jagdalpur, doing the stretch, and
But you get randomly placed, is it?
You get randomly placed, yes.
Oh damn! And how do you pick up, like तब तो ये बिना इंटरनेट के ज़माने की बात कर रहे हैं. So how are you picking up on nuances, the local language, flavors?
You learn it on the go. You learn it by living with the people around there, right? You obviously are working with a sales officer who's already there, so you're shadowing, so you get help and mentorship that way. You have distributors who are there, who will do equal part of helping you and testing you because they know you're a newbie. So I still remember the super stockist in Jagdalpur wanted to, of course, test me, saying he's this MBA guy who's come.
Yeah.
So he said, I'm having a problem in this one sub-stockist, you go work it out. I said, sure, why not? It's a place called Bhopalpatnam. I said, I will go along with the salesman. So from Jagdalpur, the bus starts at 4 in the morning.
Okay.
It's an 8-hour bus journey from Jagdalpur to Bhopalpatnam.
No sir.
Okay, so we reach there around plus minus 12 o'clock. The return bus is at 2 o'clock. Only bus. So in that 2 hours, I have to do shops, solve the problem, hopefully get something to eat because that's my only meal of the day. Catch the bus at 2 o'clock, come back at 8 o'clock. But that was my super stockist testing me at a certain level. And for me, I think there is that part of the world which I would have never seen otherwise. So I'm actually very thankful.
Yeah.
And when I reached, it was the 4th day that time with no electricity.
Oh no.
Yes. And of course, I am talking about 2004.
Hanji.
Long time ago. But it's just an amazing understanding of the country where, that India is.
No, 100%. I think what you bolte mein aap bol gaye, sales is what you get the first.
Yes.
Why do great salespeople end up doing great marketing? Like, is there a correlation that you can draw?
I don't know about correlation, but I think it just starts with understanding the end point.
Yeah.
Right? Marketing, a lot of marketing those days was television-based marketing.
Correct.
But the reality is someone watches that television ad, then goes into a market.
Yeah.
Right? They will see a Kirana store, they will go to a wholesaler and buy, and that's where the transaction happens. Without understanding the dynamics of that world, this ad it's not enough.
Correct.
You need to connect the dots.
Anybody from FMCG जो हमारे पास आए हैं, हम हमेशा उनसे ऑन द ग्राउंड वाली कहानियाँ ज़रूर पूछते हैं. तो कोई वो वाली कहानियाँ हो तो बताओ, क्योंकि आई थिंक यू आर कम्पीटिंग विद नीम rather than competing with any other brand.
We had lots of competition, of course. For me, the most amazing one, almost all stories that you have are stories when you're talking to the end consumer.
Hanji.
So after sales stint, you get put into a marketing stint. And I had a boss then, Manisha Lad Gupta. She says, we are trying to launch something new. I want you to do market research. Of course, eager beaver. Of course, kyun nahi? What is it? We are launching a 1 rupee tooth powder sachet.
Wow.
I want you to go research it in UP. I'm like, okay. And what it turned out to be was a 7-day trek. I started at Gorakhpur. Then I did Varanasi. I did Gonda. Then I did Basti. Then I did Lucknow. Then I did something else. And then I reached Agra. So that was my belt of 7 days. Me going, talking with concepts of 1 rupee tooth powder. And of course, starting every conversation with, मेरी हिंदी उतनी अच्छी नहीं है मगर and then they would all nod and say कोई नहीं बेटा
बताओ क्या बेचना है वो.
And in that, so you get lots of learning and stories of how it works. That's also where I learned about Datun and how important Datun was. And here I was, of course, trying to tell them how to use tooth powder with a brush, etc. And then at some point, one guy stops me and he says, आपका ब्रश तो साफ करता है दांत को, बहुत अच्छा है, मगर हमारा दांतून ना मन को साफ करता है. And that's it. And you don't know how to respond to that. And all you do is say, thank you very much. We will talk.
This is when Gen Z puts this sound called fa.
So that will always remain with me.
तो अगर इसी brief को आप convert करके into a campaign बनाए थे, तो उसकी journey भी बता दो, क्योंकि फिर how do you solve for this?
Yes, it was an interesting way to solve it. Actually, one is to recognize that for that generation of people who I was talking to, breaking this habit, especially when it is so visceral, man ko saaf karta hai, is going to be very difficult, right? But there is as much need for modernity they are looking for, and a lot of the modernity they are looking for is for their children, right? But obviously in rural, price points matter. So it's not very easy to buy that, especially when Datun is free, right? So I think the interesting one that the organization did that time was we had a brand called Sibaka, which was very strong in rural UP, and it was a Sibaka paste and a brush together for 10 rupees.
Damn.
So you are getting a paste and a brush, a whole new experience at 10 rupees, and that kind of provided access and allowed us to get into the household. I don't think it changed the behavior of this generation, but what it did was seed enough of it for the next generation, and that's how the long play that Colgate was doing at that point in time.
Good stuff. Folks from Colgate watching this, please let us know in the comments if you have any more stories to add, because it has had a whole journey. With respect to your other stint at Hotstar,
I joined in 2019 as we were launching the whole subscriptions program of it.
Oh damn.
So it was a new team being set up, Prab Singh, he was the business head there, and he was looking for people. So I joined that team, and it was again super interesting time. I think I joined on Feb 20th, and we had to launch Hotstar VIP on March 15th with,
it was called VIP
with IPL day 1. Right?
Damn.
And I joined, and this was straight from Colgate, and there is zero team, nothing, and you are launching in 45 days. So that was a amazing learning of starting from scratch, and there is no. See, Colgate has processes, it has agencies, it has global decks, it has guidelines.
Yeah.
Here there was nobody, and I was going to LinkedIn and writing to agencies saying, "Hi, I would like to," and yeah, and I may have been whatever Colgate at that point category head, I may be Hotstar, and there were people saying, "No, we are not interested."
Wow.
Yeah, and it was amazing. So, but then we got to do a lot of interesting work, and
It's like going from legacy to starting up.
it was, and for
then-
me personally, that was the most interesting. I went there thinking I want to learn digital marketing.
Yeah.
That was thought process. But my larger learning was learning how to do the hustle, how to start things from scratch, how to turn things around and make things happen.
Did it take one ad campaign or multiple? Because जो मेरे को फ्री में मिल रहा है मैं उसके लिए पैसे क्यों दूंगा?
Very good question. And I think it starts with ambition, right? So for me, like in an FMCG company,
Yeah.
10% growth every year is a very good year.
Correct.
Okay, so from there I'm going to Hotstar, and I think on my second day there we were having a discussion on what our goals should be. And at that point in time, Netflix was about 4-5 million subscribers.
Yeah.
In our estimate, Amazon Prime was some 14-15 million subscribers. And I remember Prab saying in 2 years, and I'm thinking, oh, we'll be good challenger brand types. In 2 years, we want to be 20 million subscribers. And I'm thinking, so I thought, okay, maybe this is just a, whatever.
Joke.
It's just setting up a big. But the reality is the whole org from there worked back to what is required, what is the role to make that happen. And that to me is the first time when I'm seeing where you have Audacity and you set up an audacious goal.
Yeah.
How do you work backwards towards it? And it translated to Hotstar specials, which were, the originals. What should they do?
Yeah.
What should the global HBO content do? What is the role of cricket? What is the role of the Saas Bahu serials? Also played an important role,
Very
right?
cool.
And having clarity on that to a point of, again, going back to, we discussed going for headlines versus going for what works. In the OTT industry at that point in time, it was very important to be seen very cool on Twitter, because it was, the point where trends get made, etc.
True.
You had competition doing it at that point in time. We were a tech org, all tech people are there. So great pressure to do it. But the org was super clear saying, we will first solve for getting Hotstar streaming well on a 3G network on mobile phones.
Interesting.
Right? From a marketing lens, for me, it was very clear saying, I want to be seen cool on family WhatsApp groups and Facebook at that time versus Twitter.
Yeah.
Right? And that seeped into all choices, because again, you were very clear that to get to 20, that is what you need to crack.
Yeah.
And as it happened, in 2 years we were 25 million subscribers. So
what are you saying?
Yes,
Congratulations
so to me it was
it was
it was the larger team, obviously, and it was
Yeah.
just amazing that that part of Audacity stays with me, and of course it plays out a lot across many orgs. Myntra is a similar example of when you set out goals of what you want to do, it plays out.
I'm sure.
Like Forward or Gen Z as a group.
Yeah.
Right? Everyone likes Gen Z. Everyone talks about Gen Z's size, but very few brands actually put money on them saying, oh, they're still in college.
Yeah.
They are not as thing. And we kind of took an audacious bet 2 years back saying we will go after Gen Z and be
Fully
the platform
upload
of Gen Z. And today 50%, almost 50% of our user base is Gen Z. And all of it stems from having that sense of an audacious goal and everyone having this ownership mindset ki, hum karenge. Ek saath karenge. That, is to me the difference between where it works and where it doesn't work is this second part of it, which is ek saath karenge, which is, we will push each other to make it happen.
Nice.
Right? There is a pushing each other, which is
Yeah.
important, but push each other to make it happen together is, I think, the difference between people having the goals versus achieving the goals.
तो इसके लिए Gen Z hire किया आप लोगों ने बहुत?
Oh yeah, no, we have a lot of Gen Z.
Fair.
And they have, and of course, Gen Z being Gen Z, they have opinions, na?
Yeah.
It's amazing when they come back with feedback. So our first version of what we thought should be Myntra Forward
Yes.
had what we thought were these cool, edgy visuals, colors, you know, thinking, China does this, we should, like, whatever, US mein aisa hota hai, we should do this. And they looked at it, and I was in the room when they said, this looks like a millennial trying to be Gen Z.
Whoa! I can believe it. Ye ho sakta hai.
So then I'm like, okay, fair. Now tell us. And that's how a little bit of co-creation happens, right? And I think for us, we have them. They keep us in check amazingly, and it's fun. It's as much fun as, you know, those uncles in UP who I met long back and got learnings out of there versus when you talk to Gen Z. You know, we also have what we call our Myntra purpose statement.
Okay.
And it took us a while to figure out what the purpose statement should be. And then we said, we crafted it to say empowering India to be more fashionable, some version of that, right? And then we took it to some Gen Z and they were like, "Tum kaun hote ho to empower us?"
Bye, sir.
Okay. We will take care of empowerment.
Yeah.
You inspire us with fashion. And we were like, okay, fair. And then we kind of took that feedback to say, inspiring self-expression in the country by offering fashion choices is what our role and purpose in life is, and that's how we crafted it. So it's amazing working with Gen Z.
You're the first person to completely say that with conviction on camera to us. Mostly we've said we've got corrected or politically correct answers.
No, I can say that now because we've done work, we've taken feedback, and it's proven successful.
Yeah.
So I can say it with a lot more conviction because it's played out that way. It's not just that somebody is giving feedback or not giving feedback, right? That's all. Yeah.
Crazy. आप कोरिया में भी काम करके आए हो. You were doing something called Coupang?
Yes, I was with an organization called Coupang, which is also an e-commerce company. So I was part of the team that took Coupang to Japan and Taiwan, and the easiest way to experiment in a new country is through quick commerce. And the most fascinating, it's a very interesting marketing learning that I had there.
बताइए ना.
Because you started with 3 stores in Tokyo, 3 stores in Taipei.
Okay.
To first understand key product market fit, will it work, brand from Korea, etc. Right? What selection works. And then the only way to reach out you're going to do is performance marketing.
Correct.
And everybody, you know, all the tech players there, it's a mobile phone, we can drop it to exact location. So you had a 3-kilometer radius that you would talk to.
Yeah.
So sounds simple, right? And logical. So we started running ads and we were not seeing much traction at all. And of course, you know, you had these daily stand-ups with the founder and you would be like, kya ho raha hai? Why is it not happening? Why is it not moving? And the only way at that point is maybe, you know, we are a new brand, we don't know, let's just crank up budgets. And there was a point in time when we were spending $20,000 a day.
No.
Right? And after a couple of weeks, we kind of stepped back and we realized that something wasn't right and we were not getting the funnel through. And we did an analysis of where apps are being opened and, you know, the geolocations of that. We realized that 85% of the clicks and app opens were outside the 3-kilometer radius.
Ouch.
So yes, best of technology exists, but from a targeting, at that point in time, from a targeting point of view, it was not happening as real time. So anyone crossing those 3 kilometers on a tube or on a subway was also getting the ping, whereas they are not even from that area, right?
Yeah.
So now we are scratching our heads thinking, how do we crack this?
Correct.
Right? And again, remember, quick commerce, Korea, Japan, cutting edge technology places. And what worked, believe it or not, was door-to-door flyers.
What the heck?
We knew the 3 kilometers we had to go to. So all we did was door-to-door flyers, and there they have a culture of scanning QR codes. India mein utna nahi hota. There they do it. So flyers with QR codes for a period of 6 months is what we did. Amazing level of conversion and learning. So everything that we wanted to do on optimization of which creatives work on performance marketing, we were doing it on physical flyers for a period of 6 months.
Yeah.
And then I think we got understanding, like, for example, Taiwan worked better, Taipei worked better. So they've scaled it to a big business now. Japan was shut down, didn't work. But to me, it was interesting that after whatever 18 years of work experience, my biggest unlock was doing door-to-door flyers.
Damn. Cool stuff. I mean, I remember the OG cricketing schedule would come on these small cue cards or whatever cards, and that would drive me to those stores.
Correct.
A lot.
Yes.
And that was known as marketing genius for us back in the day. It's strange how marketing has so many meanings in so many places and can happen in so many formats. Hey, please follow कर लो यार हम लोग को ऐसा हम लोग इतना अच्छा cool content देते हैं हमको तो लगता है. The thing that I would like to quickly bring in fashion into the fold because that was my first question. Tier 2 and Tier 3 India is killing it in fashion.
Oh, absolutely.
So
And killing it in their own way. I think that's the interesting nuance of how, thanks to social media, how everyone's come up to speed with everything in life.
Yeah.
But they do it their own way, right? You know, when it comes to things like oral care, and I'm going to like try and do a broad sweep, which is
Sure.
everybody has, you know, there are 6-7 use cases of how oral care is, health-wise, freshness-wise, sensitivity,
Yes.
whatever. When it comes to fashion, it is so uniquely individual because fashion is used as a form of self-expression. Each of us is different. Each of us will want to showcase ourselves differently. We may want to showcase the same thing, but I will do it differently wearing different clothes. You will do it differently wearing different clothes.
Yes.
So that interpretation is what makes it fascinating. Earlier there used to be this piece of Paris ke runway se leke, it will come at some point to Bombay, Delhi, then it will seep down. Today it's a lot more real time. You will have people who would have seen Barbie and asking hot pink sitting in New York as well as sitting in Jagdalpur, right?
Correct.
So there is that piece that comes in. The question is, what hot pink do they desire?
Yeah.
Someone may desire it in a very cute corset top with a bow tie somewhere.
Correct.
Some may want that in a very simple palazzo pant.
Yeah.
Right? That will vary accordingly. And you know, I think that's the interesting part of fashion. Let's take quad sets.
Anji.
Right? You know, we go through this beautiful thing of quad sets and what it means to people. So if you ask some of our people in, like sitting in the Bangalore office, for example, for them quad sets was a trend which was 3-4 years old.
Yeah.
Went through a trajectory of where it went from regular quads to denim quads to ethnic quads to now ethnic with corset top quad to many things. If you talk to someone today about quads here, that may be the quad which is the trend for them. But if you go to someone in tier 3, they may be moving out of their salwar to a quad today.
Just now.
And it is the first base level of what we think is base level, but for them it's a fashion upgrade.
बस इतना ही दूर रहा है.
हाँ,
Tier 2 and tier
that's
3.
it. And interesting part is the unlock, right? Earlier they would have all seen quad sets in their celebs.
Yeah.
You know, they all follow Bollywood and
Correct.
everyone else, they would have seen it. But it would have always been it works for them, does it work for me?
Yeah.
Whereas now when they see an influencer from their own city saying, ये वाला quad set मेरे को fit अच्छा है, it is an unlock for them saying, hey, even I can use this. So that's an interesting part of how fashion is not only individual, but how trends are getting adopted thanks to this mix of celebrities at one end, influencers at the other end. So it's quite fascinating.
So how do you keep up? Like, this is crazy, right? The churn must be mad because I can't imagine one thing that's fashionable today is not within 30 days sometimes.
I mean, there is certain sets of audiences who are as real time as that, and you have to keep up. You know, I mean, we continue to do consumer groups, and people will tell us what I'm interested in is palazzos that work for me, even today, saying I want to buy it.
Yeah.
So yes, there are some trends which, you know, will happen if a Rocky and a Rani comes and there is a certain sari, that will be real time. Durandar comes and people start looking for Patani suits. That is real time.
That must have been a huge spike,
Sure,
no?
yeah, all these are very interesting spikes. So those are all interesting spikes that happen, and those need to be catered. But there are those styles which also linger on and take different formats. Where, you know, across the country, across different people, they'll adopt it differently.
तो trust कैसे build करता है व्यक्ति? क्योंकि वो बड़ा tricky space है.
And that to me is almost the key.
हाँ जी.
If someone trusts you, versus in this world of everything being today, AI can build anything, etc.
Yeah.
The differentiation is going to be how do you inculcate a certain sense of trust with an individual or with an AI agent, whichever is the future. And that will come out of only their experience.
Yeah.
Right? That is not, yes, marketing and communications will do a certain role in driving awareness, salience, all of those pieces. But as they use the brand, as they experience the app, as they do the post purchase delivery that happens.
Yeah.
As they do returns, which is a
That's
big
true.
part of what the fashion world goes through. When they have to get confidence at every one of these layers, and when that happens is when they will truly trust you. And I think for Myntra, it's been a 18-year journey. Trust and knowing a very curated selection of fashion which they trust us with
Yeah.
is pretty much been the key to our growth and success.
Very cool. And is there a mechanism with which you can track trends? Because
I mean, we have to. I don't think it's a wish list. It is a must do today because if we don't track it, the consumers track it.
yeah,
So for us, we have to, and I think it works on 2-3 counts. One is just social listening, right?
Sanji.
Everyone has a point of view and they put it out on social.
Yeah.
So as we listen to them, we just understand. So a lot of our teams do that. The second one is working with influencers.
yeah,
Influencers in this country are amazing purveyors of trends, right? They want to take their trend to their audience and it's customized to their own audience.
correct.
We work with upwards of 400,000 influencers every month. Okay?
What?
Yes. Most people probably don't know that, but that is the number, and I'm probably going to wager one. That is, I don't know if anyone else does more numbers than that.
Very cool. Very cool.
So, and when you do that, there is a feedback loop of and the way they put out content is they order from Myntra and they talk about it, right? So you get a sense of what they want to talk about because their audience asks them. So that becomes another way for us to just understand what trends exist. And then of course you will have the traditional pieces of style guides that come out globally.
Yeah.
All the brand partners that we have, in the end of the day, we are a marketplace, right? The brand partners are on top of styles at their own level. So it's a mix of all these three that kind of goes into an algo, which hopefully will go into something Gen AI, which allows us to be on top of trends at a real-time basis, and hopefully at some point, to every cohort as personalized as it can be. It's a very open org. One of the things that Myntra's, like not now, I think it's been in Myntra DNA for all 18 years has been a certain sense of innovation. There's always been innovation, right? Like I spoke to you about influencers. I'm talking about influencers today.
Anji.
The reality is Myntra started doing influencers in 2019.
That's
when
what-
it was on no one's radar,
Yeah.
right? Someone set it up then for me to scale it right now, right? But
Fair.
it's always had this innovation, and that innovation happens only when everyone on the floor is questioning, pushing, and that happens amazingly well, right? We launched Fashion GPT 2 years back.
Yeah.
Right. We launched, multi-product skin analyzer year and a half back. So I think just our level of experimentation and innovation focus is amazing, and that's what keeps it chugging. And that's where I think the interesting part is fashion is about innovation and change.
Yeah.
Tech is about that, and Myntra kind of is the sweet spot of combining the two together.
आप बिलीव नहीं करोगे, मैंने सुबह मम्मी को बोला कि मैं मिंत्रा के सीएमओ से मिलने जा रहा हूँ. शी सेड समथिंग, हाँ वो लोग मेकअप प्रोडक्ट्स बहुत अच्छे बेच रहे हैं. आई सेड मम्मी वो लोग मेकअप नहीं बेचते हैं. एंड शी सेड नहीं बेटा बेचते हैं. एंड आई एम लाइक माय मदर इज 60-year-old and she just taught me something about an app which I thought was native to me.
Amazing.
So
And what you should go back and tell your mom
Yeah.
is that she can be an influencer on the Myntra app, because every shopper of Myntra can be a part of our ultimate glam clan, which is we will make you a creator. All she has
Wow.
to do is put up a review of whatever product she's bought.
yeah.
Everyone else will see the reviews on our app. We will ensure that. And if anyone buys off that review, she gets commission.
Dude, that's crazy. Everybody who's on this, please let us know in the comments what you all have made and how it is and as an experience, because when I read about it, I was like, ये लोग commerce को एक step आगे लेके गए.
It happened two ways, right? One is, earlier historically people always bought fashion of catalogs. I think they are buying more and more out of content now,
Yeah.
right? And that happens, the social media, movies, whatever else, right?
Correct.
All of that. But, in the old model of you have to pay an influencer for every post, there is a cap of how much you will spend to do it.
Yeah.
So that's why most brands will, have 50 influencers, 100 influencers. Now we are at a beautiful stage of where influencers work on what is called an affiliate model, which is they'll
Yes.
put out content and they don't get paid for putting out the content, but any sale that comes out of the content, they earn commission.
nice.
And that commission can be a huge amount of money. And to me, honestly, I think it has democratized the influencer system in the country. Otherwise, you'd have had a top set of 50, 100, 200 influencers that command and get money from brands.
Yeah.
The rest are only posting content without anything. When influencer commerce has opened up the way it has for us now, I think, and we have 5 million people who've registered. Huh?
तो आते हैं कुछ कैंपेन्स पे जो हमारा एकदम ही ब्रांड न्यू हिस्सा है मैशेबल
course,
मॉर्निंग्स
of
का, जो
course.
हम करने लगे हैं नया नया. बट आप लोग इन्फ्लुएंसर्स, मतलब देयर इज कोमल एंड सिड आल्सो इन एन
Yes,
एड कैंपेन,
absolutely.
एंड देयर इज शाहरुख खान एंड फराह खान एंड कियारा आडवाणी आल्सो इन वन कैंपेन. तो रेंज तो आप लोगों की गदर है.
And we will have, and for example, our last campaign, which which is what we call U 2.0, does not feature any celebrity or influencer of any sort.
Correct.
It is our first campaign ever which does not feature a celeb or this, and so that's also been an interesting journey now of where you need brand aspiration setting, which happens through influencers, which happens through celebrities, and brand relevance building, which will happen through everyday people.
दिस इज द वन व्हिच सेज मिंत्रा ने हमें क्रैक कर लिया है.
That version of it, yes,
Yes.
absolutely. And it, the interesting part of it actually came out of the influencer work.
ओके.
When you talk to a lot of these tier 2 people, and I was giving you the Palazzo example,
हाँ जी.
like that, a lot of people are saying they know Myntra,
ओके.
they know a lot of the fashion that the celebrities, everyone does, but for them it feels real only when someone from their city is seen with it, so they know how to adapt it.
सुपर. सो शाहरुख खान साहब को आप क्या पिच मारते हो कि वो सेट पे आके बोलते हैं यार मुझे प्याज काटनी है?
Listen, he is a better marketeer than all of us.
That's so true.
He understands content and what will work and what doesn't more than any of us will.
Yeah.
On especially that specific campaign, there was no to and fro. I think he just understood where we were going with it, and he played along full tilt with Karan and with Kiara.
वाह यार क्या बात है. So Farah gets a redemption arc. मतलब Shahrukh and Kiara get a redemption arc in the end.
Absolutely, that's kind of what happens. I think there's one underlying theme of our brand, which is always about, when you do brand archetypes, we call ourselves the magician brand archetype, which is we aid in transformation. Fashion aids in transformation, right? You are person A, and you want to showcase yourself, and fashion helps you showcase that to people. So in that brand archetype, there's always a transformation, loop back, closure that always happens. Sometimes it is directly with fashion, and in this case it wasn't about fashion, but the theme was that.
There was a campaign I remember of hers and Ranbir's, and Farah was also there directing, and she's busy shopping. This was almost 3-4 years ago, I think. वो भी काफी अच्छा था.
हाँ, correct. Absolutely. That was for our end of reason sale campaign. I think that's the one. So yeah, I think there is this balance nowadays of we have to, as a marketeer, we have to do brand building,
हाँ जी.
which drives confidence in the brand,
Yeah.
which is our everyday, day in and day out brand campaign that has to sustain, and that brand thought has to sustain. Then, because we are in fashion, we have to do advertising or communication that keeps freshness. So you will do new things that we do, whether it is Myntra now, whether it is Gen Z, Forward, new brands, all of those pieces. And then you will also do campaigns that make you culturally relevant, which is where a lot of social, viral, humor first comes in.
Nice.
The tough part is balancing the three.
Yeah.
Right? Because I see a lot of focus on the third in today's world, where being talked about has almost become the end goal.
Yeah,
right?
I don't know why and how.
Yeah, only because I think it's so complex, right? It is, everyone is exposed to so much content that it becomes, and I think we are somewhere losing the fact that yes, you need to get noticed.
Yes.
But you as much need to sustain brand love. Brand love does not come out of recognition and headlines. Brand love comes out of sustenance, sustained pieces, right?
That's true.
So to me, that balance of buy my brand, which is what the third does, versus buy into the brand, which is what the first does. How do you balance that? And figuring out that balance for your brand, your category is what makes it exciting in the marketing world for me.
100%. But how much are you allocating to brand building? Like, is there a percentage allocation to experimental? versus sustenance
Yeah.
versus reminders?
I think we'll go through the year, given occasions you will spike on something otherwise, but on a broad level, we would keep about 50% on pure brand building.
Fair.
That will play out, and then the balance that will keep playing out through the others.
So EORS campaigns also fall under that brand
EORS
building
campaign,
bracket.
our Valentine's campaign
Yeah.
falls under that. Our Shadi campaign falls under that. We did this Vishy Gukesh campaign.
Vishy Gukesh is mental, boss. Vishy Gukesh is a whole different chapter of my list.
Bootcut to carpenter to baggy to jorts, everything is there.
Sir, how do you know these words?
तुम जिस स्कूल में पढ़ते हो वहाँ के हम प्रिंसिपल थे.
That was one of those attempts at comedy and being talked about both at once.
So it had a little bit of an interesting journey, which it's a part of the Myntra Forward journey, right? When we launched Myntra Forward, and after a lot of deliberation, we said we want to go after Gen Z, and you have these choices of should we do it as a separate brand, not, and we said logical extension of Myntra, so we made a choice of Myntra Forward. But how do you separate it from Myntra, right? That's always a question when you communicate. And we tried 2-3 models. So we started off by saying, well, because it is Gen Z focused,
Yeah.
and we had lots of learnings from these D2C brands, we said we will do influencer first, and we will focus on that and build it. But somewhere in that, it was still seen as Myntra, right? They all worked well, etc., but it was still seen as Myntra because of the brand halo. Then we did campaigns, interesting campaigns which had, we did our first one which had Kushi Kapoor, all of those pieces. And again, because there was fashion, there was Myntra, it felt a little difficult for us to kind of get a spike out of it. They were not changing trajectory. And then for us, honestly, it was a little frustrating. And there was a point in time when my brand head Vijay, we almost had gun to our head ki this is not being cracked. Yeah. And it was a funny one because we were scratching our head saying we are trying multiple things.
Yeah.
And of course, one of the options on our table was lots of brands trying these viral pieces.
Yeah.
Is there a version there? And we didn't know, obviously, how to do this. So he said he saw some ad on Insta. So on Insta, he reached out to Vishal Dayama and said, I saw that ad, nice, we want to chat. And I think Vishal runs Braindad.
Yes.
Right? So he responded, and we had a conversation saying this is the problem statement. In a week, Vishal was in our office saying, I'm going to narrate 3 scripts, no presentation, nothing. 3 script hai, sun lo. Amazing concepts. One of them being this tension between millennials and Gen Z, and how do you do it with Vishy Gukesh.
Yes.
We said okay, and Vishal in that same meeting said, oh, by the way, and this was I think around December 22nd, okay, and he said, by the way, Gukesh is free only on Jan 4th. After that, he's going for tournaments. He had already checked. Okay, so we said we are shooting on Jan 4th. We were live with the ad on Jan 15th.
Wow.
And in 1 week, it did 30 million organic views.
Crazy.
And that allowed us to, really change trajectory. So yeah, this one came out of, as I'd like to joke, with gun to head, but yeah, it happened.
So cool, so cool. I love it because I think I was one of the first to have Gukesh.
Yes, it was one of the first to have Gukesh. It was an interesting combination of having 2 people from the chess world talk about fashion as far as a way. But it was just amazing to see, again, when you started, you spoke about how fashion is pervading all across the country.
Yeah.
Therefore, that's why it doesn't hold ground. It is not only the celebrities or a certain sect who can stand for fashion. Everybody can. We followed that up with Mandira, Saiba and Sehwag, which was another interesting one. So I think those kept going, and that gave us, some of these things gave you confidence to do what is now You 2.0 without any celebrities, right? And saying, yes, Myntra may have not done that for a while, but in the digital world that we live in today, we also learn by doing. You're not betting all your horses on this one ad that you're producing or whether it works. That campaign had 8 ads that we made. 3 of them didn't work and we turned it off, and the other 5 chugged along and did really well across the cohorts. So I think that's the beauty of also where we are, which is, I think whether it's the audience is forgiving or
Yeah.
thanks to technology, we have the ability to test, make choices and take things
Quick.
forward.
Yeah.
I think we have the ability to do that, and because you don't have celebrities involved, there is no high cost of production,
True.
etc. So that I think that part is a very very interesting learning of where we are on the marketing advertising side.
थोड़े से मुझे डेटा पॉइंट्स अगर आप बता सकते हो तो बताओ. टोटल MAU पे कितने MAUs पे बैठे हैं हम?
We are now at about 75-80 million monthly active users.
Whoa,
Yeah.
that's crazy. So that तो on a daily average would be at 4-5ish, 3-4.
No, much upwards of that.
Much upward.
Yes.
तो कितने लोग सिर्फ बैठे होते हैं मिंत्रा पे?
Lots of, so remember when you're talking about fashion and beauty, it's very close to people's hearts. We have our top 5-10 million audience who come to us 30 times a month.
What?
Yes, right?
मतलब ऑलमोस्ट हर दिन खोल ही लेते हैं एक बार मिंत्रा.
It is important for them to keep up with trends. So I think that's the interesting part, which is we are not just a place where people buy fashion.
Yeah.
We are also a place which inspires fashion.
तो कुछ हमारे स्टैंडर्ड सवाल होते हैं साहब जब हम मार्केटर्स से मिलते हैं. क्रिएटिव टीम्स को हैंडल करने का हैक क्या है?
Two things for me. One is listen to their POV.
Yeah.
Because they always come from a strong POV.
Yeah.
And if you offer a counter POV that comes from consumer knowledge, they will listen. Right? I am a firm believer in push and pull. I think any creation happens only when there is a tug of war.
Yeah.
And there is a healthy amount of
Banter.
conflict.
Yeah, okay.
Conflict, banter. There needs to be a healthy amount because creation happens then. And I think creative people respect that. It just has to be managed the right way.
Yeah.
Right? As long as it's managed with a form of you're listening to them, their POV is being respected as much as you want your POV to be respected. And if it is all centered around the customer for whom you're solving for, I think it works. But yeah.
एंड जो अपना AI डिप्लॉयड है आपके पास फैशन GPT या उसका यूसेज है और कितना मतलब वो सक्सेस है?
Decent adoption amongst different cohorts, right? So when we talk about Fashion GPT, the Gen Z adoption is quite
Mental,
amazing. Yes, because they're used to it a little more. And quite clearly for all of us, as we get more and more into Gen AI usage, like even for all of us, it's still quite low at this point in time. When I say all of us from an India context, right? As that grows, you will see this adoption growing. So for us, Fashion GPT is quite cool. On the beauty side, as I said, the virtual try-on is quite
Yeah,
cool.
you all did AR and VR also in abundance, right?
Absolutely, yeah. So I think it was a cool feature. Like a lot of places, you have virtual try-ons of one lipstick, etc. I think the folks here, what they built was you can do multi-product try-on. So it's not just about that one thing, but your whole look that you can kind of figure out and do it. Another one that is happening right now is how do you match and style yourself?
Okay.
Because people will buy a top, people will buy a trouser or a denim. What do you pair it with?
Yeah.
Tends to be a question.
अरे
right?
भाई ये तो देसी सबसे बड़ा क्वेश्चन था.
हाँ, correct. Not everyone. There will be some fashionistas who intuitively know what works with what.
Yeah.
For a lot of us, we don't. So this, as you pick, it automatically tells you your whole look. So if you buy a denim, it tells you how to pair it.
Nice.
From not just shirt perspective, but even from an accessories perspective.
Yeah.
So all of that works quite. So all of these, I think adoption is quite good.
Very cool. So right now, you on a personal level deploy AI into your life?
Yeah, both Gemini and ChatGPT for a lot of questions.
Like full co-piloting it for your life?
Like my biggest use case, I'll tell you, was there was a meeting I had to do with a bunch of employees after there's a internal survey of employee survey. There was feedback on specific points, and so HR gave me the task of kind of deciphering and understanding it.
ठीक है.
And I'm like, I know a lot of business review meetings, questions to ask, etc. How do you ask questions about how they felt about some part of it, and why will they open up to me?
Yeah.
I asked ChatGPT that question.
Fair.
And it gave me feedback saying, don't do questions, do it as an exercise. This is how the exercise will be. It needs to be anonymous, so make them write, shuffle, talk about each other. It will. It was amazing, the play out. The feedback I got was that this was one of the best meetings, and I told them in the meeting that I use ChatGPT and
मेरा
why
original
not?
idea नहीं है ये.
Why not? Like, you know,
सही
they
बात
should
है.
also learn it. But that, so I think there are amazing level of use cases.
Yeah.
I use it even for our ads, right? As much as we do all these testings, you know, there will be 1,000 questions. Everyone has a point of view on marketing, na?
True.
So everyone will say, but it's not this, not this. I upload the ads on ChatGPT and ask it questions.
Yeah.
I'm not going to take it as,
Face value.
yeah, like everything to a T, but it directionally tells me interesting things, right? You know, again, like, for example, I did this interesting one about what has been Myntra's tone of voice over the years.
Ah.
Like, I've been here 3 years.
Correct.
I've done 2 campaigns. When you go back to ads from 2010,
Yeah.
and it gave me examples. The first one of the ads in 2010 was the best of fashion for the best of you, which is
not
also
bad.
about upgrading, becoming a better version of yourself.
Yeah.
The next one in 2015 was change the look, get the likes. Again, transformation leading to an
To
output.
Output. Yeah.
Then 2019 was fashion upgrade, right? And I'm thinking, yes, we
Similar ही
may
बात हुई
not
है.
have had a brand book documented,
Yeah.
but the beauty of it is over the years across possibly multiple different teams managing it,
Yeah.
this DNA of what Myntra as a brand stands for and the archetype has held good.
Nice.
And you know, obviously we will always find newer versions of how do you build on it, etc. And that's played out. So to me, these are real use cases of how you know, ChatGPT is helping.
वाह यार क्या बात है. बट मुझे ये बताइए कि आउटडोर कितना यूज करते हो आप लोग. इज दैट स्टिल अ बिग पार्ट ऑफ योर मार्केटिंग मिक्स?
Yes, we use outdoor. The role of outdoor has changed.
Ah.
I'm not necessarily using outdoor only for outdoor.
या.
I am using outdoor for what outdoor does on social.
Perfect.
Right? That is a very interesting use case. I think some of these non-digital things will come back.
Yeah.
I have a little bit of a theory that we went, we are in this journey of super digital lives.
Yes.
and
Because of which we will come back.
we will come back a little bit, and you know,
Yeah.
we are getting this sense because you know, we do something called a creator fest every year.
हाँ जी.
You know, we started it in 22, where you know, it's an event in November. We call, the first year was 200 creators came together.
Wow.
Next year was 500, became 1,000. We kept growing it, and the feedback was that that's what they wanted because it allowed for real connections, people
Community,
talking to each
yeah.
other. And imagine, this is all creators who live digitally, who
हाँ
live
जी,
online.
हाँ जी.
They were saying this, right? Then you got a sense of concerts happening.
Yeah.
Everyone wanting to go out and do concerts. In 2025, we didn't just do it as a creator fest. We actually did a Himesh Reshammiya concert,
Yes, I remember that.
right? And it was super interesting that and there were 3,000 plus creators, plus 7,000 ticketed audience that came. So it was amazing that people are coming up and in gusto for something like this. You know, and now right now as we speak, we are actually doing college music concerts across a whole bunch of cities across
बात है?
Jan, Feb, March. And we are seeing how this offline, online, experiential online versus experiential offline is coming together.
Yeah.
So I think there will be some amount of this that will happen, right? We're hearing about bhajan clubs.
Yes.
You know, all of these, I think, you know, we will balance as a society between digital versus this also. I think there is some part of that which is playing out.
Interesting. So, any time when something you did and bombed really bad, like it failed, and you thought, "Acha, theek hai."
Many of the examples that I would spoke to you about, for example, when I told you about the different versions of quads,
Yes.
comes out of absolutely this.
This one.
Which is, we think that the latest quad is what will work for everyone, and then you
Yeah.
realize, no. For everyone, it needs to, for different people, it needs to be different kinds of cohorts, and how
True.
do you get that? Including how do you call out, I think the most fascinating one is how do you call out trends?
Yeah.
And for us to learn it. Sometime back we saw a surge in Jimmy Choo sari.
क्या बात है?
Now what do you think can be Jimmy Choo sari? You
The
will think
shoe,
the
na?
Jimmy Choo, it has nothing to do with that. It is a kind of tissue type sari which has a little that is and I don't know where the nomenclature came from.
Hey, आप लोग बताओ please comments में, where does it come from?
I heard it came upwards from the market, from like some local mandi market, and then it moved up for whatever reason. That became so, and it's not like you don't have those. You have that with you, but you may not be calling it that trend or tagging it that trend.
Yeah.
So how do you use AI in different formats to understand terminologies and tag
And then
it
also
the right
backend
way?
में correct it.
Correct, and auto-correct it, right? All you technically need is something to understand and say, okay, this is the visual. Loosely speaking, on social media, these are the different names that are being asked for it. So therefore, pull it and do it. It doesn't exist today, as I mean, I can say it, but
Yeah.
that's the version that needs to happen. So that for me is fascinating.
I mean, it's also how we speak as desis. We search for a, like I can imagine, और किसी का क्यों मैं अपनी मम्मी का बोलता हूँ, पलाजो बोल सकती हैं,
हाँ,
जा से बोल सकती हैं,
Correct.
क्योंकि जा और जा में ज़्यादा अंतर नहीं है.
Correct, exactly.
तो आपको वो कीवर्ड भी मेक श्योर करना है कि जैसे देसी कलोकियली बोलते हैं वैसे
Correct.
लिखा जाए.
हाँ.
Damn. But thank you so much.
Thank you so much. This was super fun. Never did this on the drive.
Yes.
And props to you and your team to drive and talk and keep all this going.
Yep.
So yeah, cheers.
थैंक यू सो मच फोक्स. आप लोग भी हमारे बड़े धनवान व्यक्ति हैं जो हमको ऐसे सब्सक्राइब करके हेल्प करते हैं. कर लो नहीं किया है तो. मेरा नाम है सिद्धार्थ अलमैन, साइनिंग ऑफ एंड मैशेबल मॉर्निंग्स. बाय बाय.
Bye bye.